So what we're really talking about here is affordability for home ownership. And most people realize that home prices have gone up significantly in the last few years. And not only have they gone up in price, but in that same period of time, interest rates have gone up pretty significantly. And so as a result of this, there's a lot of people that either can't afford the home or can't afford the monthly payment. And even when they can, they maybe don't have that down payment money that helps them get into the house, or they have some of it and not all of it. So this program that we offer it's different from most grant programs in that you get the money. And first of all, it is a true grant program. And what I mean by that is many of the down payment assistance programs will allow you to get the money, but they make you take a higher interest rate and then pay the money back when you sell or refinance. Some of them forgive the money over a period of time, but this program doesn't do that. What this program does is it actually gives you a slightly lower interest rate, which is pretty cool. And then it gives you the money, and you can use the money towards the down payment, the closing costs, or wherever. And what it is it's a combination of several things. It's a $6,500 grant. And then in addition to that, it's a $500 credit towards the cost of the appraisal. And as far as the interest rate goes, when you do a conventional loan, they have something called loan level, basically will increase the rate depending on the credit score and also the down payment. And in this program, what it does is it eliminates all the loan level adjustments. And so the net result is you get this money and you get a lower interest rate. So people always ask me at this point, well, I mean, what are the qualifications for that? And so I thought what I would do is take a minute to show you what those qualifications are. And the easiest way to kind of go over it is through my company's website. So I'm going to pull that up and you can see the website. And what you'll see right here is it says up to $7,000. So that means that it's the $6,500 plus the $500. And we talk about addressing the prices and cost of homes and that kind of stuff. So basically, like I said before, it's a grant. It's an appraisal credit. So you can see that right here. And there's no repayment required. What you do have to do is you do have to take a home education course. And you do have to buy somewhere in the US. And basically, when it says flexible qualifications, what that's really meaning is that you have to qualify for conventional financing. So what are the qualifications? Well, you have to be a first-time home buyer. The house that you're buying it has to be a primary residence. This is not for investment properties or anything like that. This is for people that want to purchase primary residences. And it's interesting. It says a 3% minimum down payment, but there's no cap on the down payment. So if you're doing 3% or 5% or 15% or 20%, all those people qualify. And you might not even need the money towards the down payment, but you can get the money and apply towards closing costs or maybe to buy out your mortgage insurance or some type of cost in the transaction. There's no income limits on this program. Now, here's a key factor. You have to live in one of the eligible census tracts in the United States. And I'll get into that in a minute, because a lot of times people will think to themselves, well, how do I find out what that census tract is? Or I don't know where I'm going to buy yet. And there's all those questions that come up. But the reality of the situation is the census tract is where you currently live, not where you're buying. And why that's super relevant is at the end of the day, you don't know where you're going to buy. And so you need to determine whether you're going to qualify. And there's an online home buying education part. So the first question that comes up is, how do I qualify? Well, clearly you need to go to a loan officer that offers this program, and they will go over the criteria, go over your criteria. The main thing that is important is that you qualify for conventional financing, because this can only be used with conventional financing. And then the next question is just the areas. So here's a list of all the areas, and you can see it ranges from Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Baltimore, pretty much you go down the list, Houston, Miami. There's a bunch of different programs. Now, what I've discovered is typically the program is more available to people that are closer to downtown areas. What I mean by downtown is closer to the city type parts. But you should always check. When you go real rural, a lot of times I see that the people aren't living in the right census tract and they're not qualified. So for example, in the Washington, D.C. area, if you purchase a property in D.C., if you live in Washington, D.C. or one of the counties surrounding D.C. in Maryland and Virginia, you're going to qualify. And the same thing in Baltimore City, and the counties around Baltimore City. But when you go further away, then less people seem to qualify. You don't have to purchase in a qualified area, like I said. It's where you live, not where you're going. So that's kind of relevant. And who qualifies as a first-time home buyer? A first-time home buyer is somebody that has not owned a house in the last 3 years. So you can have owned a house prior. You just can't have owned one in the last 3 years. And that's what will determine if you qualify or not. Do you have to repay this? Nope, you do not have to repay this. This is money that is applied towards the cost or the down payment of the loan, and you never have to pay this. And there's no wait time. In theory, if you bought your house one day and you paid your house off the next day, you would not have to pay this money back. I mean, obviously that's not what mortgages are about, but a lot of times there's some restrictions on when you buy a house. Every borrower have to be a first-time home buyer? No, only one borrower has to be a first-time home buyer. So let's suppose you own a house and you recently got married and you and your new spouse are purchasing a house, and that new person has never owned a home. That would qualify you for this. The minimum down payment is 3% because that's what it is on conventional loans. However, a lot of people, like I said before, will qualify for this when they're putting 10, 15, 20% down. I even had one guy that was putting 50% down. He was buying a $600,000 house. He was putting 50% down, and him and his son were buying the new house. And the son had never owned a house before, so they qualified, even though they were putting $300,000 down. It's not exactly how the program is intended, but in that particular case, it did. It did. The program can be put together with other down payment assistance programs. There are some limitations because sometimes there's bond programs and stuff can be combined. Now, this is an interesting one. Is there any income limits? And the answer to that is there is no income cap. So if you make $50,000 a year or $500,000 a year, your income doesn't determine whether or not you can qualify for this. There is no income caps. And then the last thing is, yes, you have to take an online course. And the course is just going to cover a whole bunch of stuff that revolves around home ownership and that kind of stuff. It's not that difficult, and it's pretty educational, especially if you've never owned a home before. It'll be a good way to get information. It might prompt you to ask questions or consider things that you didn't consider. But this is a great program. And if you live in one of the areas that qualify, then you should definitely make sure that you take advantage of this. What I would tell you that's interesting is if you are qualified for a conventional loan already, what you would do is you should just go to your lender, tell them that you qualified for conventional financing, that somebody in the transaction is a first-time home buyer, could be you, and tell them that you want to take advantage of this. What they should be asking you is what's your current address, or they should check your current address to tell you if you're qualified. And at that point, then pretty much everything is the same. I noticed that people that are purchasing condos that are putting less than 20% down, it's an unbelievable boost to them because condos with less than 20% down typically have higher interest rates, and this does eliminate that. But definitely check with your lender. Like I said, you have to live in one of the areas, you have to be a first-time home buyer, and you have to qualify for conventional financing. But pretty much once you get by those three things, you are going to qualify for this, and you're going to notice a reduced rate, and you're going to notice that there's going to be a grant that's going to reduce the cost of the loan for you. So it's a pretty cool program, and I don't think people should sleep on it. I think so many people buy houses and never take advantage of this, even though they're eligible for it. And it's just really because they don't know, or maybe the lenders don't offer it. But this is something, it'll change the cost of the loan, make it more affordable, and you'll just be better off because of where you live and you're available.